Hey there, welcome to Chicken Ranch Records, the podcast, episode number 6. On today's program, we've got Tyson Swindell. He's a Renaissance man. He's a songwriter, poet, and music industry veteran here in Austin. He used to manage the legendary Mohawk venue here in town, and also was a partner in Red 7, which became the Barracuda and is now a future comedy club downtown. He was in Amarillo when we were chatting, and we talked about the ice storm when she was trapped in Marfa during, and then we discussed his new record, Live and Tour. It's kind of a multimedia book of poetry, cassette, and download. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. His website is tysonswindell.com. There he is, Tyson Swindell. So what's been going on in your world?
A whole lot and a whole lot of nothing. It just depends. The pandemic, I would say with everybody, especially in the music industry, it was pretty shocking and jarring. Just to learn how to fill your time and how to pivot, how to continue to make some money and so you can live. And just ups and downs, wild ups and downs. That type of volatility, I guess you could call it, is something I'm not really used to in life.
I don't think anybody is.
I don't think anybody should be, honestly. It's not healthy. I don't want to go back to that ever. But what have I been up to? I was running Mohawk in Austin, Texas. It's a medium-sized outdoor music venue with a small indoor stage as well. Obviously, that was shuttered during the pandemic and actually remains closed now. It is reopening. Just they're working on some projects behind the scenes, taking advantage of the downtime. That business, I worked there for about 2 years and I loved it. It's a great place, storied, almost historical music venue in Austin, Texas. And I got some good people behind the scenes there, so I really enjoyed my time there. We just came down to, it was just time to make some decisions and hard decisions. And ultimately, we just decided to amicably part ways, so to speak. But I wish them all the best. And I know that they're going to come back raring to go and better than before, most likely. We outlined, before I left, some pretty big projects. We've outlined some pretty big projects for them, and I'm hoping that they're seeing it through. Time will tell. I'm out of the loop now, so we'll just have to see together when they reopen, which should be, I would assume, sometime in the summer or the fall, similar to most of the music venues in the Austin area, it seems like.
Well, yeah, the Mohawk's a great venue, too. It's one of the premier venues in Austin. Sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to throw that in there, too.
You're good.
It's a quite undertaking to manage a place like that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it wasn't easy. Even, especially managing it during a pandemic was something that was out of anybody's idea of what that job should entail. But even in normal times, it's a difficult task. An old building, I think it's about 200 years old, that building. It's been a handful of bars and music venues, and before that it was Mexican restaurants. I think at some point it was a car dealership way back in the day. It's just an old building. There's a couple ghosts there if you want to get into some fun stuff. Definitely some people have died over the years in there due to just accidents and or negligence or whatever. Not while it was Mohawk, mind you, but an old building like that got to have some cool histories like that, and it does. So it's got a spooky vibe to it when you're there at 4 a.m. by yourself. But I got off track there. But yeah, it was a tough job. I like a good challenge. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the music industry. And whenever I took that job, I was working at a couple of music venues in New York City after having relocated out there to, again, just challenge myself. I wanted to see if I could cut it in a bigger market. And what bigger market is there, right? So
Totally.
I went out there and worked for a couple of years and took that job at Mohawk. Super proud. I was super proud to have been given that opportunity. And just the pandemic just made things weird. Here we are. Then I've been making a lot of art in my free time. I've had a lot more free time than I have for quite some time, and recording some tunes and putting out a couple releases, and also I've been doing some contract work for a couple of music related places, one of which is the new brewery in Southeast Austin called Meanwhile Brewing Company. And it is a brand new facility, some really smart beer entrepreneur guys and gals from the Portland area relocated out here. They chose Austin as the place that was right for their vision, and I think they made a good call on that. But they be a brewery that create cutting edge, creative yet traditional beer. And so fresh beer is their main objective. They have the brewery actually pipes in the fresh beer underneath the ground to the tap room. So the beer that you're drinking when you're on site there, hopefully watching a show that I've booked, is the freshest it's ever going to be. It comes it's piped in straight from the vat. So it's really cool. And they've got a distribution project going that's growing every day. It seems like we're able to get more and more accounts, and they make a really good product, so it's cool. Where I come in, I guess, is I don't drink. That's why I say where I come in. Where I come in is that they hired me contracted me over almost 2 years ago to help them design and help with the layout of their music venue. They wanted to put part of their business plan was to have an outdoor music venue on site at this brewery. The brewery is, like I said, it's in Southeast Austin, and it is situated on about 5 acres of land in an industrial area. And the land is actually quite pretty. There's tons of cedar trees, and I think there's a live oak out there. And it's actually really pretty. And they did a really cool job like maintaining the ecosystem out there. And they utilized any of the trees that had to come down. They utilized the wood for furniture, and there's a little playground area for kids, and it's all family friendly. It's cool to bring your dogs. Anyway, they brought me on board to help them plan and execute this music venue. And so I have been working with them for just a little over 2 years, helping that kind of manifestation happen. And since then, we've finished that project, or that phase of that project. And since it is outdoor on so much land, we have successfully been able to start throwing shows out there under the guidelines of the CDC and the state government in as safe of a way as possible. Currently, there are probably seating for about, 150, maybe 200 folks out there. Everything is seated at tables. There's picnic tables that we cap. We don't really allow people to group in groups larger than 8 or 10. If you're not at a table, obviously we need you to have a mask on, but it's a pretty safe deal. The bands are really only in contact with each other. I'm only doing 1 or 2 bands per night. It is as safe as it comes. And so we've been able to roll with the punches on this pandemic thing out there. And it's been really great. It's just been an investment into the music community for them. There's not a whole lot of money to be made on these shows, but it's an opportunity for us to get involved in the music community, to put some money in the pockets of these local musicians, to get the gears turning on the music venue that we've executed. And also, just to give back to people, offer them, they're coming out to try our new beer and our new products, and it gives them an opportunity to watch a free concert. It's just not something you can get in most places right now, and it's really safe. I can't stress that enough. We're really cautious about everything. If we have 2 bands playing, then we suggest that they bring their own microphones so that we don't have to worry about that. But if they can't, then we clean the mics between every act. We've only got a crew of 1 person working these shows. We've got a production manager that's incredible, that's able to build this outdoor PA from scratch every day that we have a show, and then tear it down after the show. He's the only person that's working these shows because we just don't feel comfortable putting more people in contact with other people. So we've taken every opportunity to be safe there. So kind of rambled on a little bit, but that's what I've been up to lately. I'm just booking shows for this cool new music venue that's situated on the 5 acres of land outdoors in Southeast Austin called Meanwhile Brewing Company. And that's been a real saving grace for me because it's been giving me something to do professionally, giving me an opportunity to give back to the community, which is a big deal for me, the music community specifically. I know how bad musicians are hurting for money and just, man, it just feels good to get out and play some music in front of some people.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now you've been pretty busy though. You've got a new record out, new box set. It's cassette and book of poetry, and it's really cool looking. It's called L'Aventure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so we were talking about my professional stuff, but sort of the creative side of things. I have been, I guess, but if we back it up to before I came back to Austin for this Mohawk job, I was living out in New York City and I was working, and I also lived out in Paris, France for a summer. And I was working for a little company out there doing some kind of web admin stuff. And while I was out there and also in New York City, I began to start writing a lot more poetry and a handful of songs on the guitar. It was just an opportunity for me to get back to the brass tacks of songwriting. I ventured off into the electronic digital music world there for a little bit. I still do, but this was just an opportunity for me to explore traditional ways of songwriting and recording. And so just kept a journal while I was living out in those two beautiful cities, just writing every day. I just made it a habit. And it was a good way for me to soak up the sights that I was seeing every day and the relationships that I was curating and experiences in general. And I took all of those and sort of began to demo them with the songs that I had started formulating on guitar. So what this box set is essentially, in the past, I've always just released the final product. You have the album or the single or the EP, and you just present that final piece to the public, and that's all they get to see. And with all this spare time I found myself having because of the pandemic, I realized that I was more interested in opening myself up and showing people sort of my creative processes and just being a little bit more uncomfortable with just being honest and open and about my creative processes and stuff. So this box set, there's a single, like an official single, that's the crowning achievement of this box set. And you can stream that on Spotify or what have you. But if you really want to get into this thing, the box set shows you the whole creative process that ends up as that official single, right? So it all starts as poetry for me. I start with words generally and words and feelings, and then I'll begin to tinker with melodies on the guitar and vocals and demo those ideas. And I'll take poems and find ones that match up with some of the demos that I'm working on until I find something that fits together. And then once I'm going, every song has an iteration, and I'll go through a whole bunch of different versions of until I end up with this final piece, which is what I normally present to the public, and what I would say that most musician artists do the same thing. They only show you the final product. And so box set lets you see the whole creative process. I had the book of poetry that I wrote at this time, had it bound and published, self-published. And then I took those demo ideas that I recorded digitally mostly and a little bit analog. I made a cassette tape out of those and did a whole layout thing with an artist friend of mine, Jordan Braithwaite, that I work with pretty often, actually. He's an amazing artist. And then the crowning achievement, obviously, is the final single, which is Binary Stars, is the official single. But you could really dig deep into the idea of Binary Stars. You could find the poem that started the whole thing, right? You can go back to the cassette tape and you can listen to the demo of the early version of Binary Stars, and then you can pull it up on Spotify, or if you buy the box set, you can get Binary Stars, the WAV file. There's a video that goes along with it that comes with the box set. And then obviously the cassette tape that I'm mentioning, that is also available to stream on Spotify. But if you buy the box, you get the WAV files as well as another music video that goes along with that, and the book. There are a couple other trinkets that I toss in kind of randomly to the box set, but the whole thing is like packaged and designed as one cohesive release, even though it's a whole bunch of different ones. And I actually like the idea that you can take each piece. There's 3 pieces of this box set. You can take you can take the pieces apart and still enjoy them. You don't have to have them together. If you don't want to buy the box set, you could certainly just stream the song on anything, or you could. I'm going to start to sell them separately now that it's been a couple months since the release. Excuse me. So that's kind of what the long-winded version of the box set. Really, it's just a look into it's a deep dive into the creative process of my songwriting, and I just wanted to be vulnerable, a little bit more vulnerable than I'm used to, and that I like being, and show people what those creative processes are like.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, thanks. It's a fun way to get conversation going too.
Totally. Yeah. The Binary Stars box set is available on Bandcamp and Chicken Ranch's site also. We've got a few copies available. Tell us about your recent adventures in Marfa. You went there for a artist in residency and ended up getting in an ice storm there. You want to let us know what happened? Give us the adventures of there.
Yeah. Yeah, so the original idea there was in tandem with the release of this box set. The box is actually called L'Aventure, which means the adventure in French. The original idea with the Marfa Artist in Residency was that I had L'Aventure coming out, and I had spoken with the art gallery there called the Marfa Open, and they were really excited about the box set as well, and so they invited me to come out and to just be creative for a couple weeks and live there. They have a little apartment in this cool little historic building that they turned into an art gallery. And that was the idea. They were very open to just letting my creativity run amok in Marfa. And so I didn't have a real game plan about what I was going to do there. But once I got there, I realized it just all started to make sense. And so what I did while I was there, I have a friend and a colleague that lives there. His name is Joe Salinas. He's a filmographer, director, and an artist and a musician. And I just knew that I was going to spend time with him because we're really good friends. And so we just figured out a way to make art while we hung out. And what we ended up doing for the Marfa Open residency was going all around that sort of far west Texas area, and in the daytime, like shooting film for an experimental movie that we ended up putting together. And at night, I would go back to the apartment and in the art gallery, and I would write the music for it. So the idea was we're going to make this film in about 10 days' time. It was a short film, very art housey. And then at the end, we would premiere it for people at the art show, and I would do the score live. And in fact, I asked Joe to help me perform the score live, and he did, and it was great. It went off really well. We finished a short film. I finished all the music, and we did everything. We did the editing, the sound design, everything. It was really fun. But then that crazy snowstorm rolled through Texas while I was out there, and I ended up getting stuck in Marfa for a couple extra days. And that storm was so nasty that it knocked out all the power for almost all of Texas. It froze everybody's pipes. So I was stuck in Marfa with no electricity, no water, and because of that, there was the gas stations were closed because they didn't have electricity to turn their fuel pumps on. It was actually pretty scary at first. I rolled with it. What else can you do? It was wild, man. It was a really weird way to end that artist in residency. The people at Marfa Open were super nice and so understanding, and probably a little freaked out. They helped take care of me a little bit because I didn't know as many people there. It guided me, helped finding me a warm place to stay those extra couple days. And then eventually I was able to find a gas station in Fort Stockton, which is a little over 50 miles away, to fill up my car in order to get back to Austin. And so I was like, you get to this point where people are really nice and they help you, but I realized that they needed to worry about themselves and not have the extra burden of worrying about me. So I just kind of decided that I was going to chance it, and I was going to drive to Fort Stockton and get that gas, and then drive across the state through the middle of this insane storm to get back to Austin, which, by the way, they also had no power and no water and no gas because everybody had bought it all. There was no toilet paper, as I'm sure you remember. It was
crazy. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, we got real lucky, but man, it was that was a rough week. We had people up north that don't have a context of it, how it is in the southern U.S. about ice. People can't drive, and then we're unprepared for it just because it doesn't happen that often. And that was a bad one.
Yeah, having lived in the Northeast for a little bit, it was like people just don't understand that we don't have the infrastructure to mitigate those problems that they deal with every year. And they're just thinking, why aren't the snow shovels out there digging up clearing the roads and salting the roads so that you can drive? And I can't believe the amount of flack that we got for not being able to withstand that storm was it was silly. And I was just like, look, people, this never happens here. So we don't have anything to mitigate it. Nobody has, even if people did have, the people that I do know that had things like snow tread to their tires or whatever, they don't know how to put them on. Like they put them on once or twice in their life. So it was just it was crazy. It was frustrating. I'm glad you guys fared better than most. I ended up faring just fine, but it was just like on top of the pandemic, not being able to have those things that you are so accustomed to living your life with. It was quite the shock.
Yeah, it's a 1-2 punch, the pandemic and then the ice storm. But the infrastructure is bad, and it's always has been bad because it was about probably 50, probably almost close to 20 years ago. We were flying from, going to fly to Shreveport for Christmas to see my family, and they had an ice storm in Louisiana, and the one de-icer they had at the airport in Shreveport dry rotted and exploded, so they couldn't get anybody in until like late that Christmas day. So it was that's interesting.
Man.
So yes.
Similar. That's a good analogy. It's like, here we got one, we haven't fired it up for so long, and we're not sure it still works. And oh man,
well,
crazy.
The coolest thing I saw on the road, I was on TV, and they should have done this there's a ton of construction companies here that have a motor grader, which grades the roads before you pave it and everything. My family's in road construction, so I know we got one of those. And somebody took a motor grader and they basically just graded the ice off the road on Mopac, and they should have had that guy running 24/7, just taking the ice and everything, and that would have helped quite a bit. And whatever salt, got to keep a salt reserve or something to salt the roads because it was bad. But I liked the snow skiing on 2222. That was my favorite part of the videos that people were taking.
What? I don't think I know about this.
Oh, you got to Google it. I'll find it for you. The big hill by when you hit 620, going from 620 to 360. There's a big giant hill going down there. Some dude got some snow skis and decided to just alpine ski down that hill, which is a gnarly hill. So it made a great snow slope there. Actually, which is pretty cool.
I bet it did.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Guy.
Yeah.
I need to meet this guy.
I was like several of them. We got one of our what do you call them, inner tubes to go in the river, and my son and my daughter's boyfriend went on bombed the hill down by our park next to our house, and that was pretty fun.
Oh God, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It just gets old really fast. I don't dig cold weather as much as the next person, but unless I'm prepared for it. If I'm up in New York, then it's a different thing. But yeah, man, I see you're in Amarillo. Where how is it up there? Is it you're up with the family right now and everything?
Yeah, I'm here for a week. I've got a couple. I'm working on another project that I'm going to try to release in May. I just had the opportunity to see my folks now that they're vaccinated, and all of those scary issues are almost behind us, at least in my family, thankfully. And just working on stuff. I'm up here. It's cold, man. It's about 40 degrees outside. And I didn't plan for that. You'd think I'd learn after this insane winter, but nope, here we are.
We never learned. You never learned and never ready for it or anything. I went to New York one time with just a pair of dress shoes and had to buy some boots for when the big blizzard hit there. So you were born in Amarillo, correct?
I was born in Lubbock and then grew up in Amarillo for the most part and moved to Austin when I was 17. Between those three cities has been the majority of the places that I've spent time.
Now, we'll do the whole Tyson story here too. So you came from a punk and hardcore kind of background at first, right?
I grew up in both worlds. My parents are both musicians. My mom plays the piano, and my dad is a jazz singer. So it was force-fed music at an early age. I was classically trained on the violin and the viola in like the Suzuki program from the age of 3 or 4, and I've continued that program until moving to Austin. In my formative years, I taught myself how to play the guitar out of a rebellion, honestly, and taught myself how to play Metallica and Nirvana and just stuff like that, and started forming bands around the age of 15 or 16 or so, and then was lucky enough to find a group of guys that were similar minded, and at an early age. I was really quite lucky, and we actually ended up starting to book tours around Texas and around this area. We would play shows in Oklahoma and in Louisiana and all over Texas and in New Mexico. And I just started, I cut my teeth on these many summer tours with these guys when I was 15 and 16. And so I just snowballed from there. I figured out that you could do all of that stuff on your own, and it's this sort of DIY punk ethos that I was becoming entangled in. I also figured out that around this time that if I wanted good punk shows, I could just put them on myself. And so I had some friends, and then we would throw DIY punk shows at other people's, at friends' houses or garages, or we even eventually started renting out a warehouse space in like the really downtrodden, kind of burnt down part of Amarillo in, the late 90s or whatever. And so just started to, you could see my career and future start to unravel, not unravel, but unroll at this point. I'm learning how to put out records all on my own. I'm learning how to book my own tours. I'm learning how to put on shows and make enough money to pay the rent on a place. And so it just started to snowball. Before long, I was touring nonstop with a punk band that I formed with some friends, and I was the booking agent for that. And we were touring all over.
That was Pack of Wolves you're talking about, right? The band you toured with?
Yeah, Pack of Wolves. The band that really got started with on all this was a band called Games in Theory, and it was just a hardcore, sort of post-hardcore punk band, and we just did everything we did everything ourselves, man. It was really fun and really cool. And I bought a van, and I booked these tours all over the country. We were playing so many shows and driving so much that all that I did. And then as that band started to wind down, we went through some, as everyone does, it seems like we had some keeping drummers was a problem. And so we eventually just called it quits. And by that point, I had formed Pack of Wolves with some other friends of mine. It was actually the drummer from Pack of Wolves was the original drummer from that band Games in Theory. And so we have a long history together, and we're quite good friends. And he brought Trey over from the hardcore band At All Costs that was pretty popular. And we just formed Pack of Wolves with, those two groups of friends coming together. And, Pack of Wolves was similar. It was a little bit more successful because we had paved the way for ourselves for so long. And so Pack of Wolves was actually able to pull off some pretty cool stuff. We toured with High on Fire and that band Caveller Attack. That's our main achievement, I would say, as a band. We CMJ shows, South by Southwest, and really just touring all over the place all the time. Yeah, but that was a really long-winded answer to your question. Yes, absolutely. I learned how to do all of this stuff, both professionally and creatively, from my punk early days that I hold dear too. And I keep that ethos in mind in every aspect of my life, whether it's business-oriented stuff or starting a record label or putting out an album of my own, putting out my friend's album, whatever. I've always got that. I've always got that sort of punk underlining that I'm proud of.
Yeah, you've always had the hustle, though, and I've been impressed by everything you've done. You had Red 7 with some partners for several years. That was you and Johnny's place.
Red 7 Red 7 happened at about the time I mean, it happened during my tenure as a guitarist in Pack of Wolves. And it was me and Johnny Sarkis and Graham Williams from Transmission Entertainment, and later Margin Walker, coming together with my good friend Jared Cannon, who started everything over there at Red 7. And he brought me on after just a couple days of trying to do it. He was doing it successfully on his own, but he saw the opportunity and probably saw the work ethic that I had. We got involved, and then we partnered up, and we ended up buying that place out from the old owner and running it for 10 years. It's crazy to think that we ran a successful punk club for 10 years.
It's almost unheard of. I like that. It's a great club. If listeners are in Austin, it was called Barracuda. Now and that's been becoming a comedy club, I think. So it's changed hands quite a bit, but that was a good run, and it was a good club. Everyone had great sound people, and it was just a great place to have shows. We had several shows there, and thank you for hosting us there too. We recorded that P. Z live record there, and then you had those great showcases there, and you had Carson Daly there one year, and Green Day played there, I think. I played Secret Shows, right?
Yeah, we had Carson Daly. Actually, Carson Daly rented the whole building, one South by Southwest. They could film a bunch of their interviews in the daytime, and then at night we hosted their shows, their showcases. Green Day show was wild. That the outside portion of Red 7 was a capacity of, we sold it to about 500. I think legally we weren't allowed to do that. I think that we oversold it a little bit, especially for special shows like that. But man, that Green Day show is something I'll never forget. It just came about really randomly and organically and perfect. It was like the touring engineer, front of house engineer for Green Day as an Austinite. And so he knew what Red 7 was about. And, we were just a DIY punk club that took things really seriously. We took sound and lighting very professionally, and we, for the most part, I would say, we were worried about the customer experience. And so it was just like a punk club, but it was somehow professional. And he knew that. And so when Green Day were in town, sort of rehearsing their American Idiot set that they were about to tour for, they were like, "Hey, we want to get some practice of this in front of people, though. So, what's the club that we should play in town?" And of course, Red 7 was at the top of that list. So, long story short, we hosted them one night. We sold 500 tickets in about 3 minutes as soon as they went on sale. And all of that money went to a charity that Green Day picked out. And it was cool, man. They played all the bangers. They played all the old school hits that you wanted to hear. They played the new stuff. They played for almost 3 hours, and it was just so much fun. It was so positive. They were such pros. They totally understood that we were a punk club, so we didn't have a barricade. We have very lax sort of crowd surfing, stage diving policies. They were just so happy to be in that environment again, and they loved it, man. And they were such pros. They hung out for so long afterwards, and they signed every single article of clothing and poster and anything anybody wanted. They were just so game for it, and it was really cool.
And what after y'all closed Red 7, you went over to Paris and New York. You went and did some traveling, and that kind of informed your new release, actually, your adventures post Red 7 to now.
Yeah, that pretty much, I guess that's the missing link in the chain. Yeah, after Red 7 closed, I started working at a place called the Sidewinder, and I was the general manager and the booking guy there, and things just didn't work out. That partnership was really difficult. And so I ended up just deciding, I was like, hey, listen, I looked at my life and I wasn't happy where I was. I knew that I wanted to live in New York City at some point in my life, because I had just spent so much time there. I've got family there, and I just wanted to experience something new. I didn't have a band at the time that was keeping me tied down anywhere. I didn't have a girlfriend. I was able to just pack up and start over. And so I did. And that's what took me to New York City, and kind of the beginning of the Love and Tour story.
That's cool. And you went to Paris, came back here to Austin, and ended up at the Mohawk. And it's amazing what the Mohawk has done. That venue is Something that's cursed for a while because everything kept opening and closing in there before Mohawk. And it got really good. It's a good solid place there. And you've had some great bands there. And what's been some of the best shows you've seen during Red 7 Mohawk era? Which ones are, besides Green Day, which ones are you were most excited about?
Sure, yeah. We'll talk about Red 7 a little bit more. I think one of my favorite things that happened at Red 7 was when there was a tour that was supposed to happen at Stubbs, but the headlining band got ill or someone went to the hospital or something happened where the headlining band for the tour couldn't play Stubbs. Stubbs is a giant amphitheater. I think it's upward about 2,000 person capacity, so it's very big. And Red 7, on the other hand, the inside was 350 and the outside was 500. And so obviously a big difference in size there. I believe it was Rise Against was the headliner, and one of them fell ill, and so they weren't able to play that show. And so at the last minute, day of the show, the openers on that tour called us at Red 7, and they're like, "Hey, listen, this is what happened. We still want to play a show tonight, just the openers, and we want to do it at Red 7 if you're available. Can you pull this thing off in less than 24 hours?" Of course, that's the kind of shit that I really like because it's like it gives me an opportunity to show people that we're capable of doing just about anything. And so we said yes, and we hosted. There was 3 openers on that tour: the Gaslight Anthem, Thrice, and oh gosh, I guess suddenly blanking on who was the big band.
Well, just those two would pack Stubbs now, though. It's
Yeah, wait. So who had? I think the guy ended up joining Blink-182. What's the?
Not Alkaline Trio, or guitar player, yeah.
So Alkaline Trio and the Gaslight Anthem called us with 24 hours to go, and they were like, "Hey, can you do this?" And I was like, "Yes, fuck yes, we can. We'll figure it out. I'll make it happen." And we did, and it was magical. It was a really cool night. It was very similar to that Green Day show where all the bands hung out afterwards. They signed stuff for people, and they were very nice, very professional. It was a wonderful, magical evening. I think that another show that sticks out to me, we hosted No Effects one time at the inside stage of Red 7, and they only played because it was in their contract for the festival that they were playing in the daytime. They were one of the headliners for Fun Fest out at one of the parks here in town or in Austin, and they agreed to play this club show. And No Effects at that time, of course, they were more than capable of selling out that club. And to be true to their brand and personalities, they decided that they were not going to play a full set. They were only going to play a verse and a chorus from every single one of their songs. And so they would get going in the song. Verse 1, people are freaking out. Everybody knows all the words. And they get to the chorus and they do it. And then Fat Mike would cut the song off halfway through. And you never knew when he was going to do it, but he did it every single time. They didn't play a single song in its entirety. And people were heckling the shit out of them, and they stayed true to it. It's really funny in retrospect, although it was stressful at the time. And I'll never forget that. So that's one of the things that sticks out to me.
Those guys, yeah. I saw Fat Mike walking down the street in his clown makeup. It was that night he got kicked out of Emos Forever, I think. We had a showcase, and I just saw him. It was Fat Mike, Cokie the Clown, I guess, is his persona.
Yeah.
But
I remember.
Yeah, so he pretended to pee in bottles and said, made people and gave them to the crowd and stuff.
Yeah.
That was interesting. But
that was wild.
So you've been, and you did a lot of stuff with Fun also, Fun Fest and Sound on Sound as well, right?
Yeah, I wasn't as involved in Sound on Sound because it wasn't close. It was outside of the city limits. And I was actually in a punk band from San Antonio at the time called Illustrations. And we were touring pretty heavily. I wasn't as involved in Sound on Sound as I was with Fun Fest, but Fun Fest was the Red 7 liquor license was the one that was the catering company for that festival. So Johnny Sarkis and Graham were big parts of that festival, obviously. And then being my business partners, we were pretty intertwined with that. And then I did work out at the festival grounds. I did some sponsorship liaison work where basically some of the big clients that they had gathered to help support the festival and with sponsorship deals. I basically just schmoozed those accounts. I made sure that they felt taken care of, all that, all day long. And then I would go out, and I would go to Red 7 or even Sidewinder and run the club for the rest of the night. Those were long days. They were very fun.
That's great stuff there too. That was probably my favorite festival here in Austin. Those festivals are so great because I could bring my family, and it was just you knew everybody there, and then it was just a fun, just assortment of music. And yeah, I think it really blew my kids' minds watching several bands at one night. We saw Slayer and Body Count, and just tons of
just random. You would run into a wrestling ring and see insane wrestling stuff happening, and Fatsy and Run the Jewels performing from the top of a half pipe.
I saw that.
All kinds of
Killer,
crazy stuff, man. That
Killer
festival
Mike,
was so much fun.
That was awesome. Yeah, and the Twinkie the Kid was there one year with the taco cannon. That was I have a slow-mo video of the taco cannon firing out in the crowd.
Yeah, hell yeah! I got to fire that thing once.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it was just a fun festival. I think Austin people tend to take things for granted. Maybe not now, but back then it was kind of just so much is an embarrassment of riches as far as live music goes. And I hope we get back there with that soon.
Yeah, an embarrassment of riches, man. That is the perfect way to look at it. Whew. I missed that music festival so much. I thought that Graham Williams did the best job curating that thing of any festival that I've literally ever worked, seen, or played at in the entire world. And there's been a lot of them. And like that festival's curation was above and beyond. It was just so cool.
Yeah, I think my two favorites are Riot Fest and Fun and Riot Fest are my first, but top two in the U.S. I've been to, and they're really just great.
Yeah, Riot Fest is great.
Yeah. I hope Graham can bring something back one day because he's got the touch for that. And I'm going to get him on the show eventually and talk about the fun history and everything. And he was just on a KUT podcast recently, so give it some time.
Oh, cool.
Talk to some more stuff about that. But yeah, it's great. And yeah, it's great. Y'all are like a little family and everything. All the Johnny and you and Graham and all the people surrounding you guys. It was always real friendly faces, and everybody got along pretty well, it seemed.
Yeah, as any family does, we have our ups and downs, but it is very much like a family, man. We Red 7, Johnny and Graham and Jared and I ran Red 7 for 10 years, and there were all kinds of ups and downs that went along with that, but we're all still friends. Like to this day, I'm on a text thread with those guys we chime in and crack jokes and update folks on things are going or whatever, like literally every single day. So it is a very close group of guys. The experiences that we shared are just things that keep people together forever.
Yeah, I need to get Johnny on the show. Just he's like Carmen Sandiego. I can't really pinpoint where he is in the world sometimes. But
yeah, I think he's out in LA. I think he's out in LA right now. God knows what he's doing. But I tell you what, his dog is being adorable.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have his dog? Is his dog at your house, or like just hanging out in town, or?
I just get videos of whatever his dog's doing every single day. So.
Yeah, there's a dog.
Yeah, he has like a basset hound. I believe it's a basset. Her name is Daisy.
Is that the one he has the tattoo of? Or?
I think so. Yeah, he's got a lot of weird tattoos, as we all do, I guess. But
yeah, he's a great guy, and I need to get him on the show eventually. But he's tough to pin down sometimes, and I'll have to get him when he gets here in town. But yeah, what's next for you as far as musically and life? You're doing the brewing company, which is great, and you have to get the address and the website out for that, and then also let us know what your next projects are for music.
Yeah, I'm doing the brewing company. We're gearing up to start doing bigger shows in the fall. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing that once the summer gets here and the timing is right. As far as creatively though, I have a mixtape compilation coming out with just a bunch of my friends from all over the world. I got tired of publishing the publishing playlist of trying to help my friends prop each other up or propping us, working together or whatever. And so I've just decided lately to start actually putting tangible things together to help all of these guys and all of these people, I should say, sort of network and do stuff. And so I've got that in the works. That'll probably be releasing sometime in May or maybe even June. But that's in the works. I'm going to be releasing another electronic album this summer, probably around the same time as that mixtape is coming out. The mixtape is going to be part of the marketing idea for my album. And what else I got going on? That's it for now. I'm working on just a bunch of random projects just to keep my mind occupied while I've got the bandwidth is always scheming on something.
Okay, so you got a few projects on the works and tape in May, and then you're going to just keep on chugging and creating music and booking shows. That's awesome. What is the address?
Right.
What is the address of the brewery? Because I know it's a bit southeast, but it's not as southeast as it used to be because everything's getting
I don't remember the address right off the top of my head, which is whatever. Don't judge me. But it is in the Montopolis area in southeast Austin. So it's east of 35 on 71.
Okay. And what's the web address?
The web address is meanwhilebeer.com.
Cool.
And they will, it's a really cool, it's actually a very cool, innovative website. I highly suggest checking it out. You can see all of our COVID policies. You can see the shows that we have coming up, and also get a real understanding of the kind of cool beer that these guys are making every day.
Yeah, just the beer tourism, I think, would be great for that place, too. And then having shows is just also fantastic. What's the capacity without COVID? It's a big venue, though, correct? Or it's a large venue. I guess it's not a big like a Emos or Empire, but it's still pretty large, though, right?
I think we're going to end up with, after COVID, we're going to end up with about 600 person capacity.
That's fantastic. And it's open during the day and in the evening, I guess, too. So it's got a pretty long, it's open for Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday or something like that. And
every single day, 7 days a week. We're open from 11 a.m. until midnight. And there's a really great coffee program. I'm a big coffee guy. So we have a really great coffee program, super intelligent coffee director, and there is obviously the beer. We have at least 3 food carts on site providing really great stuff. We have a taco cart there that's just chef's kiss. Yeah. And we actually they make in-house wine and like a Fernet, stuff like that. So it's not just about beer there. There's all kinds of stuff they have really good non-alcoholic stuff. As I mentioned, I don't drink anymore. So there's a little bit for everybody. It's children friendly. It is family friendly in the LGBTQ type of way. Very diverse staff. There's such good people. I can't suggest it enough. And obviously I'm biased. I wouldn't be there if it weren't something that's true to my ideals on what life should be like.
That's the way to do it. And man, I appreciate you taking time out and talking with us today. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, man. Thanks.
And be safe, and we'll talk to you very soon, man.
Okay.
See you, buddy.
Likewise.
All right.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for tuning in today. Our guest today was Tyson Swindell. And this Chicken Ranch Records podcast is hosted and produced by me, Mike Dickinson. And I hope you'll tune in next week. We'll have another special guest. And hope you'll send us an email, ranch@chickenranchrecords.com. And if you want to buy some Chicken Ranch trinkets, go to store.chickenranchrecords.com. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks a bunch. Have a good week.